Okay, our recording is in progress. Hi, Maria. Shehnaz here. Today is December 7th, 2022. We are just pretty much winding down. And month of December is quite a month because the numerology of the month is 3, and 3 is about initiation. But this is kind of more of an initiation of the next year based on everything we have learned in our lives, going through the whole year, of course, prominently. So it's quite a good time for self-reflection and evaluation and understanding where we are in our current state of mind and state of accomplishment or state of position in our time and space. So today's podcast is all about how you can daily rituals, we can title it maybe daily rituals or daily maintenance. Yeah, so some sort of word. So I think Maria and I will come up with that. But the point is that what do we do to make sure that we can show up every day for ourselves, first of all, right? And then for others. So the fact that we are doing this podcast right now means we are showing up for others. And that requires an extra energy, because sometimes even showing up for ourselves is a challenging thing. Because for me, I had a hot yoga today, but I wanted to sleep in a little longer, so I actually skipped it. And it worked out for me because I wanted to make sure everything else I can follow on my schedule. So I'm going to let Maria share what her thinking is on this. But this is going to be our topic, and we're going to go back and forth, and we're going to have some fun. And we do appreciate others who are going to listen to this recording to please tell us what type of questions you have along the line. So Maria, here.
Yeah, so I'm actually really excited that you chose this topic because, and Shehnaz and I do this just so everybody knows. It's like, what should we talk about? Because every time we get on the phone, there's 30 different subjects. So we know that there are a lot of people going through a lot of different things and doing a lot of self-education, and what is right for one person regarding good health and good self practices and self-awareness. People are learning a lot about themselves and digging and doing a lot of research online, which I think is amazing. So I'm excited about this subject because I have my own practices and Shehnaz has hers, and we're actually quite different, in what we do to stay healthy and the things that we do, and even the way that we treat our bodies. I mean, obviously we're different, so we have to be self-aware. So I think that's important for people to understand, because what might be right for you might not be right for someone else, right?
Exactly. And you're right. So actually, whatever we're sharing here is a perspective that works for us. And the idea is that whoever is listening to us should avail something that resonates with them and question whatever doesn't resonate with them. But at the end of the day, our intention is with this podcast is for you to take something home that can help you with your overall well-being.
So
yeah, go ahead.
I'm excited to start this because this is, I mean, every time I do, or I'm online talking or anything like that, I always include my husband because he's a good time. And he's the type of person, if I say, hey, take these, this is good for you, he won't even ask a question. He's also the type of person that he's not stubborn about good health or things that might be good. He would actually get mad at me if I was doing something really positive or good for me that I didn't share with him. So, and I know a lot of couples have this different interchange, or friends or whatever have this different interchange where, one is more stubborn than the other, and I'm not going to do it just because you said it's good. You know what I mean? Things like that. But we have amazing support in my household. So I got him going to hot yoga with me. And I know that it's difficult. It's not an easy thing to do. I know that some people have their opinions about yoga practices, but the bottom line is that we do it to strengthen our bodies. So, which is why I'm dressed like I am, because we had our hot yoga session. So that was one thing. That's one thing that I do. Even me with an open heart surgery. So I have this lovely scar. I have no problem doing hot yoga. I can lift weights. I can do anything anyone else can do. I'm just a little bit more cautious than what I might have been previously because I was a little bit crazy with my weights and things like that. But and then we also make sure that we're eating greens at least once a day. So we do try to do that. We limit our eating out because obviously vegetable oil is used in restaurants, and of course restaurants have to use typically the least expensive, and that's literally petroleum, literally. So I mean, byproducts of petroleum. So it's not like you want to go out to eat all the time. That's why sometimes we end up, poisoning our bodies. I take a daily zeolite, so does he. I also obviously use my tincture a couple times a day, and I use frequency devices once or twice a day. So, I mean, these are the things that we do aside from, relatively decent diets, with fruit and vegetables making up at least a third of our day, honestly. So, I mean, we try to keep it like that. And then obviously staying in a high vibe state as much as we can with all of the turmoil and the daily emails and fluctuations and things like that, and then of course having to interact with others is not always easy. So
Right. So I think, Maria, you already covered physical. So I guess we'll start with physical because, and we will come back to spiritual, which is actually the top one. But so Maria mentioned that she and I don't have a lot of similarities, which I actually disagree with. I actually do heart yoga. That is one of my main thing that I do. And I had a heart yoga class, as I mentioned today, that I missed, which is the only reason I'm not in yoga clothes. And so let's, so I guess Maria.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, we both use energy device, even though it's differently manufactured. So I use Beamer, and she uses another device which is very similar to Beamer. And it's kind of interesting because one of the things is that as soon as you wake up, like the first thing in my case is that I'm very aware of my dream because I almost live another lives in my dreams. So when I wake up, I'm actually because depending on my dream, I'm actually evaluating my place and space and time. And I'm saying if my dream was not as exciting, I'm actually very grateful that I'm here and my reality looks like this and not the one that I experienced in my dream. Because as I'm experiencing it, I'm feeling it being very real. So for me, that becomes an important aspect of my day, which kind of falls under a spiritual ritual that I recommend my students is that if you have a dream that's worth noting, then you write down. And if you don't want to even write down like the whole paragraph on it because you have some meetings to attend, then write down the keywords on your journal book. So that way you can go back and then finish up the remaining story when you have time to write. So those are the two ways you can capture the thought process. So because your frequency changes as soon as you wake up. So therefore, your memory of remembering it is very limited. And if you don't have a habit of recalling the information or making an effort and realizing that how important your dream is, all of those will play the role in you remembering it and you working through it. So yeah, I have dream books and I just love that because I almost felt like we can make some movies out of some of my dreams because they are so exciting. So that's how I usually start. And then this morning I was very aware because I have been invited to parties every night. So I've been going out and not eating very healthy, which is the one reason I could feel that when I'm not healthy, that I feel very inflamed. My body tells me all the signals, even physically, other people can notice if they're noticing it, but I feel it, of course. And so I basically give myself a break that I'll make up the heart yoga class tomorrow. And today I slept in a little bit longer. And then when I wake up, I always start with, like I take Dr. Roberts' 4 salt, and then I start with lemon and cayenne pepper, and I get my Beamer going. And today, since I skipped hot yoga, I do have a sauna, so I use the sauna instead. So that way I can still get my voltage to change, my cell voltage to change. And after that, I was kind of like, okay, I have so much scheduled. So I kind of pretty much had a whole day schedule working at NASA, doing this podcast with Maria, and even I had some phone calls. But the point was that I wanted to make sure that I'm aware that my body is not performing as best as it should be, because I have kind of little bit abused it for the last 4 nights of being out and about. So I'm very aware of that. And my goal is to make sure that I give myself an extra fluid today. I don't eat any diet that causes more inflammation, things like that. So it's kind of like you have to gauge your body every single day based on how it starts out for yourself. But the key thing is that there are certain things that it's good for maintenance, like cleaning up your body in the morning as soon as you wake up. Beamer is what I use for energy, but you can use anything you like. Just doing something that stimulates your cells so that it can get the movement going in your blood flow. And there are so many ways. There are so many ways you can do that. And heart yoga definitely is a great exercise that we both value. And sleep. Sleep is extremely important. While you're nourishing your body, you want to make sure that you nourish it through sleeping. So of course I can go on and on, but I want to make sure I take a pause here. And
so when you talked about, sorry to interrupt you, but when you said, so just so people understand, I mean, one of my very, very good friends is, he's been a dentist for, like 30, 35 years. So when we talk about sleep, I know people probably think about that and go, yeah, that's one thing that people will, they'll shove tons of supplements down their throat. But when somebody mentions sleep, they literally brush it off as if it doesn't mean anything. And, just for people who are listening, sleep is probably the most important part of your 24-hour cycle. And I say that because, of course, one of my very good friends, like I said, has been a dentist over 35 years. So he does functional dentistry. He teaches, he's been an instructor. This guy knows his stuff, and it's not just us out here saying it. He literally teaches this, as do, many other functional healthcare professionals. And you cannot go into tissue repair and actually heal your body unless you have sleep. You have to get into a certain state of REM, a certain state of deep sleep in order for that repair to take place. If you can't get there, if you don't get there, you wake up feeling tired, or you are, you don't have as much oxygen, you have sleep apnea or something like, or you identify, I should say, with sleep apnea, then you're not healing and repairing your body. This is the time to do it. So it is important to get enough, at least over 6 hours, to make sure that you can get there. Tissue healing and repair are real.
Right. And Maria, I wanted to make sure you're talking about the number of hours, because I had a student, she would only sleep 4 hours, and she actually felt very good with that. So I think that maybe that is just something that gets predetermined based on
it's average. Like a typical person can't get into a good REM in a certain period of time, and then for a certain length of time. But if you have someone who is well studied, like you were saying, you have a student that does really good with 4 hours. If you have someone who's well studied and has a good homeostasis internal environment, then probably, it's probably possible. But people need to realize that, I mean, that getting there in that type of a time frame isn't easy to keep it at a certain length of time, but it's not that it's impossible either. It's just important, for sure.
Right. And it's interesting, right? Because the whole thing with sleep, like for me, 8 hours is like I feel good with it. But there are times like when you go through so much purging or so much deep experiencing, it seems like that there are days I've slept 10 hours and even more. And I'm so glad that I did, because my body needed it.
Yeah.
So we have to basically use that, right? Gauge our body, right? That there are times we're going to need more. And it's actually way better than taking any kind of supplements, because it's our body's natural way of progressing to the next level.
And I think this is also important. We talk about like water and exercise and things like that, but for instance, last night, Dwayne and I went to hot yoga, and just to wind down, because sometimes I'll have 6 or 7 Zoom meetings in a day, and, couple that with contract negotiations and heavy patent reviews and things like that, the paperwork becomes very challenging. So if you're literally on the computer all day, and let's say that's your job, like that's my job, is to be in front of the computer and working all day usually. It is taxing. It's very difficult. So it's important that you take care of your physical and your mental body. sometimes in the evenings, I'll have a hard time shutting it down. So I'll use my frequency device sometimes to, I'll put it, it's bicentropics. I'll put it in a relaxed setting to come down, to lower my frequency so that I can at least rest. Last night, I didn't have to do that. I didn't need to do it because, we went to hot yoga, and I know I don't do something just because it's a habit or it's a routine. I go by the way my body feels. Last night, my body felt great, and I was nice and relaxed and tired just from a hot yoga session. So I didn't need anything. I didn't want any help, didn't need any help. And I slept amazing. So that's, just saying, you can get into a routine, but it doesn't have to be the end all be all. And sometimes it's really good for you to be in a fluid state where you're constantly changing and, reforming new experiences, new DNA memory, and really following what your body's telling you. And that's another way for you to get in touch with yourself.
Exactly. And that is the thing that, so we are a spirit in the human body. And that's why I teach light body activation class, because the whole thing about that is we should do that every day, grounding, right? And everybody does the grounding in their own way. I just give them more understanding of what the science behind our cell activation is and how we can leverage it, just like a plant does the photosynthesis. Similarly, we can transform the sun energy into our fuel. And the good thing about that is that not only that you are helping your body, oxygenating it, and you are basically stimulating it, but you're also kind of getting ready for what type of day you want to have, so you can set up an intention in terms of and create a vision of the whole day. And I think when you start your day as a spirit in a human body, and then so spiritual is all the first layer, and then the second layer is mental, right, which is where all your thought comes in, because your thought is the first thing that initiates everything in your life in terms of manifesting, in terms of experiencing. So the density is very heavy as it becomes materialized. But while it's doing that, you're the one who's commanding your ship through your thoughts. So it becomes very important that you're aware of your mental plane. From that standpoint, so spiritual is first, and then it's mental. And then the third one is actually not physical yet, it still is emotional. So the thing is that, let's say, whatever you have stored in your memory up to this point when you wake up, like let's say if you had a great night last night, then you're feeling very good about it. But let's say if you met some people that you were challenged by, then you're thinking about how it makes you feel. Whatever your mindset is, so again, you can see the spiritual, mental affecting your emotion. So now you're affecting your emotion, and truly your emotional directly ties to your physical. As soon as you feel upset, you are no longer breathing like you would like to. You're no longer, you're tense, your muscles are tensing up. No matter what you've done to flex it, you have completely contracted it to the point where you're not doing the flexing, you're not doing the ebb and go flow. You're not moving like a pendulum. Your body's not flowing. And all of that affects in every single thing you are going to do for the rest of the day because of the law of attraction.
It's true. No, it's true. I had a rough day on Monday. And I can't say it was rough, but it was, something happened that was unexpected. And I had a great night the night before. And then I had gone to yoga that morning. So I had a great morning. Everything was great. And I get a weird message, and really sort of like a 2x4 hit me. And I was like, wow, I just did not see that coming, but okay. So then I put myself into a state of mind where I'm analyzing it and trying to figure out what the message was. And because it wasn't friendly. And I thought, I don't actually let that into my circle. I'm very protective of my energetic circle. So I was thankful, and I looked at it like, this is a lesson, because my frequency and my universe are looking out for me, because this is the most important thing to me, is to keep a very positive environment around me, and to be able to move, fluidly with changes as I need to, as quickly as possible. And that'll happen 10 or 15 times a day. So you can imagine the chemical roller coaster that my cells are on sometimes. So again, that's what's my priority, is keeping this positive. So I analyzed it for a minute, and then I thought, thank goodness, because I have the most incredible universe and frequency surrounding me that it's, out there watching out for me. And I don't attract this type of person to me. And that was severed immediately before anything got started. And I thought, how amazing is that? So I completely flipped the script, and it was no longer something that I needed to analyze, because I was automatically just thankful immediately. So, I mean, that's a long way of saying you can control your thoughts, can control your emotions, which also control your physical body.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. And it's funny because everything that you just said, it's funny because I said that exact same thing to a person that I met last night. I had gone to the Chamber of Commerce party because I want to promote my business, right? And it was interesting because there was my the woman who runs the whole NASA Marshall Space Flight Center. She was there as well. So it was interesting to see that my day job always keeps chasing me everywhere I go, and it's part of me, right? When you go to any function in Huntsville, by the way, Maria, because here when you're driving, you're seeing the Saturn rocket. I mean, it's a very rocket town. So everywhere you go, there's like giant pictures of showing the timeline of the rocket launching and so forth. So I just end up in a room, Marshall. I meet this guy, and we ended up talking to each other. And then I mentioned him my credentials, and the first thing he said is, "Tell me 3 things that I can do to make my human craft," because I mentioned him the human craft good. And all those 3 things is what you mentioned, and I'll just recap it from my perspective. It's hilarious that, and the first thing I told him is that you have to keep your body in the flow, which means you breathe in, breathe out. And then he said, "Which type of breathing should I do?" And I said, "No, it's not about which type of breathing. This is about however your body can feel most relaxed." And we all have, and rather than getting hung up on following somebody's method, why don't you just get to know your body by just doing the natural breathing where you feel really one with yourself and the earth? And then he was like, "Oh," I said, "You have to give that a try before you want to adopt to somebody else's method, because first you got to learn who you are before you embrace a very specific method." So anyway, so he said, "Okay, first is breathing." And I said, second is that when people come in your interaction, right, then gauge whether they make you feel good, or they make you feel bad, or they make you feel, well, okay, whatever your feeling is, acknowledge it, engage it. And that's what you were sharing, right? So the whole thing was, and I said that when you notice that some people don't make you feel good, then do something about it, because who is going to be the commander of your ship? I mean, if you're the one who's feeling like, Maria, whatever you feel right now, I can't feel it. Whatever I'm feeling, you can't feel it, because there's a reason you are in your body, not in mine, and vice versa. So the point of the story was that nobody can represent your emotion for you. You're the only one deep down knows what you're going through. And because of that, you're the one who has to do the damage control, like Maria, you did by doing what you did. And as soon as you did the damage control, you were actually very happy about how you protected yourself, how you protected your boundary. And that has become the most important thing, is self-management. But it requires the awareness. It requires for you to do damage control before it goes too far and becomes such a big mess that now you are like violated.
Do you know that? And just to tie all of this together, it is critical that we understand also that our energy affects those around us, and those that we speak to, and those that we interact with, whether it's online or otherwise. I just happened to get a message from a friend who owns a bookstore, and they actually had ordered. They have a following, like a sci-fi type of following, and they ordered Dominition's book. And I sent him a picture. As it turns out, he was having kind of a rough day, and this was all the same day. Okay, where I had this experience of this crazy person who actually had my phone number, and I'm like, that was the weirdest, strangest message in the whole wide world, but cool. This is how we're going to deal with this. And I basically put it, as my cousin would say, in a file cabinet, in the very last file at the very bottom of the file cabinet, so it's filed. And I don't care about it, because it's like this part of my life. And then I sent him this picture, and I was so excited And he's like, oh my gosh, your energy is amazing. And thank you for including me in it and all this, wonderful stuff. And I thought, boy, I am quite powerful, just as an individual, because you just have no idea how your energy and your interaction can actually either help or hurt someone else. And, of course, words have power, but also, it's possible for people to feel your disgust, your discernment, your excitement, your happiness, your joy, and your negative emotions, everything.
Exactly.
So it matters, and especially now. So we are not only showing up for ourselves, guys, but we have to show up for each other, which I'm not always good at. I'm really not. I mean, I don't always practice what I preach. Sometimes I still get triggered. And I'm working on it, man.
Yeah. So Maria, I have to tell you this. I always used to think that one comes before the other, like showing up for yourself versus for others. But what you just explained, by the way, because we're energy being, showing up for ourselves is equal to showing up for others. Right. Because if you show up for yourself and you're feeling good, then because you're feeling good, you're already holding the space for everybody around you, no matter where they are. If you're feeling good, you're actually kind of helping them come back to that same frequency. So technically, showing up for ourselves is equal to showing up for others. And yeah, by the way, what you did for domination was amazing. And I need to talk to you after this podcast along the line. So we'll catch up on that. But it's so interesting also that the whole thing about being affecting others just by virtue of what you were saying. I have a kind of a little bit of an interesting story because, I actually learned Pavlovian response, and I want to actually search the paper about the scientist because I love it. But I'll explain you how I learned about that. Is that, like, when I was married to my husband, who was very much into games, and he would be sitting in an office playing games, and I would be entering because I'm struggling with babies and food and worked all day. So of course I'm about to enter because I'm a little upset, and before I even would say anything, he would be already mad at me, right? So then I'm like, and we both are scientists, and so we kind of can talk like this. So I said that I haven't even said anything, and he said, yeah, but I feel it all, like before you even say it in words. And that is really true. And at the time I wasn't aware of morphogenetic field, and just the fact is that you have like when you're living in a house with people, okay, and I'm going to say this, it's really sounds creepy, but it's truly true. You're constantly communicating with these people, right? You're sharing love with them, you're sharing whatever else you can. And the thing is, you need to know that it's all kind of stored in the morphogenetic field. So let's say if you pick up the pattern that you've already had with them, certain pattern, like where, okay, you're not helping me, for example, with dishes. I'm just giving that as a throwing up, which was what was going on. So the point is that pattern has played many times, right? Because when you live with people, you play a lot of patterns on a regular basis. You don't even know sometimes, maybe because it becomes part of your pattern too. So you have a certain thing you do with your loved ones or your children or your parents, whomever you are with. The point is that just be aware that when you are playing the role playing, right? Because we play the role playing, then it becomes so monotonous that you don't have to even say words because the other person already has that same information stored in their track record saying, oh my God, here you go again, right?
Yeah,
and
memory.
That's really true. So all of this plays a role. So therefore, the energy world, which is the invisible world, we can say from our limited EM spectrum, truly affects everything we do and everything we do with others.
It's true. Yeah, it's not always easy to control, but I think becoming self-aware really helps tremendously. It helps with discipline. It helps with recognition. And then, once you get to that place, then you can really start to dive deep and go, okay, am I feeling this way because I had a ton of sugar yesterday, and I feel bad about myself, or I'm not happy, or my body's not happy with me. Is this physical? Is this coming from an emotional place? You can really start, diving in and drilling down and figuring out, why something is the way it is. And this will lead to discipline. through your diet, through your mental health, through your emotional reactions. Once you understand that your DNA holds memory, okay, and that you really know what this means, and then you can start to change your own wiring, like Dr. Joe Dispenza discusses. You know, he's an amazing person. He's a brilliant person. And he's actually the first person that I started listening to many years ago. And I have all of his books. I read all of them. So it's not like it's, you know, easy to do or change. I mean, I had to go through my own physical health battles just to be able to carve out emotionally what was really going on, and where I was physically being assaulted, and, you know, things like that. And I don't mean by another person, I mean just by environmental type things. But I mean, I said a lot just now, but just to understand that it's not necessarily an easy road, but it really is sort of a fun journey, because I'm thankful that this isn't as good as it gets. I'm thankful that I get to continue to create and learn. And I'm thankful that I'm actually the one in control.
Yes, that is very true. And you know, the interesting thing is that, so spiritually, like when you were mentioning all the different levels, right? So having a self-awareness helps you to know exactly where you are struggling in your phase of life, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, whether it's mental, whether it's spiritual. Now, the thing about these layers is that if you're affected in physical, then you can always go a level up in order to kind of understand your root cause of the problem. So like if it's a physical, then you can go emotional level, mental, spiritual, because as you go the higher level, you're going the higher dimensional, you're going a higher perspective. And what it does is that it helps you solve the problem from a very different angle, and it truly covers it at a deeper level. So therefore, it's important to know that. And see, spiritual is where spiritual and mental is, I would say that I've come a long way on that, which is why the quantum being. And I actually love to share what I've learned with others, which is why I like to teach classes. And I know Joe Dispenza is a very accomplished person. And most of my students that I attract, they tend to be Joe Dispenza people like yourself even. And but my whole thing is that I'm new and upcoming, but my goal is very similar to him. And even though my style and my knowledge and wisdom is going to be different because I'm Shehnaz, but I really would say that spiritually is where I want to share the information, and I'm looking for more opportunities there. Just like I can say, based on my experience with Maria, that she commands the physical realm because she understands the body better than a lot of people I know. And because of that, you know, she's the one I would go to. Like when I feel like physically I want to sort something out, I would just go to Maria and say, Maria, can you help me? Because I already take the tincture, because that tincture is helping me in so many ways. Because a year ago, I was kind of in a whole different place, you know, struggling with COVID. And actually we became a friend. I think it was in the beginning of this year, I believe, partly because of COVID, because Joanna recommended me to talk to you. And then once we talked on the phone, you know, we created the bond, right? And then we didn't know where it's going, but here we are today, and we are excited for our kind of a new and upcoming friendship. So it's an interesting thing about the whole self-awareness, Maria, that you mentioned, right? That how important it is that you can truly solve yourself. And even if you do get help from anyone, it's good for you to know which level you want to get help in, because wherever you are going to solve the problem, it depends. But because of your pattern, and because we live in a patternistic world, it can come back. So my goal is that we all should hit it all the way to the deepest place, right?
Right. Well, actually, what's really funny is just so people know, one of the main reasons that I knew how to handle that, what happened on Monday, or just this strange experience that I had, one of the main reasons that I knew how to handle that is because I've actually had Shehnaz's class, and I took a second to go in and self-reflect and thought, okay, this is something, everything happens for a reason. And we say that until we're blue in the face, and people, you know, of course, discard that as well. You know, as if it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. But understand that sometimes when things happen and it is for a reason, it's for a reason to, for protection, or it's a reason that, has something to do with attracting the right frequency. And if something is not aligned with you, or you're disappointed that something didn't happen the way it was supposed to, for instance, or you were counting on something, I would suggest to people, don't change your expectations. You don't have to change your expectations. Just understand that when something does happen, that it probably had something to do with a frequency misalignment. And that's okay. It's for your protection. It's for your bubble, and use it to your benefit, which I 100% did. But that has come through a lot of spiritual teaching and activation and understanding of the laws of quantum physics, reading. It's not an easy emotional place to get to. So it does require a little bit of work on your part. But once you get there, wow, internally, life changes. So externally, life is going to change, if that makes sense.
Exactly, because we are the universe, right? There's a you in the universe, and that you is you. And you know what you said is perfect, because, and my God, Maria, that is the one rule that I'm going to tell everyone that they need to follow, is what you just said. Is the rule is that, when you are, whatever interaction you're supposed to have, even as your day is planned, if things get canceled or if things doesn't pan out the way it is, it's truly because, the law of attraction is playing the role. Because whatever you make a plan, you are not thinking about the law of attraction and your feeling at the time, because you made a one-dimensional plan. And now you're going to play it out based on your life experiences. But that play out is where you're going to learn about yourself, because we're here to learn. So therefore, in the learning process, you're going to have to run into disappointments or something. Sometimes actually things happen that you expect a certain way and it happens even way better than you expected, right? And you're like, oh my God, it's beyond my imagination. Similarly, it goes on the other side, because, we have to go to both sides of the pendulum. So that is actually one of the biggest rule, is that get out of your own way, right? That is what Joe Dispenza says as well, is and that's a key message that you just gave to us, that because when you really see that things are exactly the way it is supposed to be, even when you do miss a flight in your plane, and yes, you thought that you're you had to get somewhere in time no matter what, the timing is exactly playing out the way it needs to. You are the only one who's getting in the way.
And understand what you said too about, this was very interesting. So, having a plan is a lot more one-dimensional. Okay, that's one-dimensional. Consider that, when we are trying to get to a certain aspect or a certain place spiritually, inside, that you're starting with a one-dimensional plan, and you have to mold all of these other dimensions or spectrums, and you have to mold all of this together. So you should expect change. You should expect variability, and you should not ever expect perfection.
Exactly.
It's hysterical, because so you have your business, I have my business. We can plan all we want, Shehnaz. We can plan all we want. But you're full of shit if you think that the plan is ever going to be followed. I literally said to my team at one point, I'm not going to actually do all of this work. I have, this thought, this is what I'd like to do, but I'm never going to follow a real plan, because it just, life is very fluid. So I have to have a little bit of organized chaos, in order for, me to function where I want to be. And that's okay.
Exactly.
I know that was complicated, but
life is perfectly imperfect, right? And that is actually one of the unseen mirror in the book, chapter 6, right? And it's because of the exact same thing. So yeah, you're right. And actually, I think the thing is that when you are aware of our spiritual self, that's why it goes back to self-awareness, the spirit in the human body, and you are now interacting with the world. So the reason you create a plan, is because, it just keeps you in a little bit of a structured pattern, because to some extent that plan is feeding your food, clothing, and shelter. It's feeding your, your lower chakras for sure. But the whole thing is that in order for you to feed your other chakras, like Maria said, that even though there is a schedule set up by your team, but at the end of the day, you're the visionary of your human craft, which is Maria, right? I'm the visionary of your human craft, Shehnaz. So when you're a visionary, you have a plan, and you have your own plan. You have other people telling them what their plan is based on what you thought your plan was a month ago. But the point is, if you don't feed up yourself in a way that you make sure that you want to follow this now, because you know what, the wind is asking me to go here, and you know what, life is too short, I'm going here, right? That is the best way you can do that, because you know what, that's how you exit patterns. That's how you exit monotony. That's how you actually say that I'm going to keep owning myself, because I'm here to live and thrive. And you know what? That's why I always say, and as a software engineer, we use the word timestamp a lot, because when you're doing troubleshooting, it's very important that the timestamp data, right? What was the data at this particular point in time and space? So the whole thing about this is that it's very important that we give ourselves the credit that we are multidimensional being, and therefore we're going to always be kind of changing things a little bit up. So it's actually
organized chaos. And
exactly.
And everyone, I mean, it relates to the health of all things, including, your pets, your animals, the frequency that you're putting out. This is literally, I know that we went sort of around and we tapped on spiritual and everything, and a little bit of physical. We don't have all the physical answers, all the answers to help everyone physically. However, we do know, Shehnaz and I both know, that it literally starts from the inside out. So if you want to heal something, whatever that may be, if you want to be in a better emotional place, or you don't want to be dependent on medications for depression or things like that, it really does start from the inside out. And I would suggest, and I'm just going to do a plug right here, Shehnaz and I are going to actually get to meet in Denver in March. And I'm really excited about it, because it's this body, mind, spirit show. It's a big trade show in Denver, and it's probably this particular organization, probably their biggest one, where we get to meet a ton of like-minded people. And she will be there signing her books and talking to people and setting them up for classes. And I think you're going to get a huge response, number one. But two, our booths get to be right next to each other. So I also get to help tackle the physical health of people when she's right next to me, working on the spiritual and mental health. So, and part of what I do is mental as well. So, but I do it through physical products, and she does it through education of spirituality and things like that. So I would encourage people, if you're in the Rocky Mountain area, that you come and see Shehnaz and I. We'd love to see you and say, hey, we saw you, on this podcast or YouTube or whatever it may be. We talk to everyone and treat, of course, everyone in person as amazing as we would if they were our own family. So everybody's a friend, basically, and we would love to see you. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yes, and actually, I would like to add to this is that, because the idea was coming in my head, is that for all the people who are listening to this, and they would love for us to do live, where people can ask us any questions, because I can cover, between me and Maria, I think we do cover all the 4 layers, so it would be really fun to do that. So please kind of just mention in your comment, like live or something. And then if you get enough people, then we may create like a monthly or something where we come out on a certain time that can work for everyone, and just do the live thing and help you guys, because our goal is to educate ourselves and educate others, because sharing is loving. So that is what we're going to continually do, and we pretty much cover a very broad spectrum, because both of us are scientists, which is another thing we have in common. Both of us are curious about how to heal ourselves and others, which is another thing we have in common. And then, so Maria, I'm completely and so I think that is the goal. So that's why we would love to continue it like that. So since we're going to wrap up now, I'm going to ask you, Maria, first. Is there anything you would like to say as a whole for overall well-being?
Yeah, I'll just summarize and say that I know that it can be difficult to try to care for yourself spiritually and emotionally. And we always reach for that physical item that can help us. And I want everybody to know that it's okay to do that. Shehnaz and I both use, there's a couple of different physical things that we will use, like we will use frequency. We're fortunate, right? Because we have access to those things. But you can gain access to those things as well. These things are meant to be, and anything physical, these things are meant to be maintenance. They're meant to be sometimes a rescue, but really understand that that is supposed to be a bridge to access your internal well-being through your cells, through your consciousness, through your vibration, through your energy. And that emotional well-being from the inside out is when you're actually going to start to heal. Whenever you can access that and feel it and control, your vibration, your emotions, and your internal health, you will see on the outside a lot of change. You will feel a lot of change. So I just want people to know that anything physically that you use, they're great for rescue, they're great for maintenance, and they're great for education to your cells. But ultimately, your DNA has memory, and that's stored. So once you realize, how you can access that history, you will have a tremendous increase in your health, in your well-being, in your emotions, and everything, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a path. Yeah, it's a path from the outside in, just to be able to control the inside out, which hopefully that wasn't too confusing. But
yeah, but basically what you're saying is as above, so below. I mean, when you look at the universe,
yes.
the cosmos, and when you really look at the galaxy, the picture of the galaxy, it's kind of like that is pretty much what we are. Like I don't know if anyone has watched a movie called Fantastic Voyage. It was one of my favorite movie when I was in Pakistan, and we got the television there very late compared to other places because it's a third world country. But I do remember watching the movie Fantastic Voyage, and that movie is all about like taking the journey down in the human body. And that just completely stuck to me. What a concept, right? Having to, and it was so much more mysterious than any space we have seen. So that is the whole point, is that as above, so below. And yes, and that is why, like, to me, it's all about when you do work internally, which is why Quantum Being is the book that I have put everything that I know up to this point, is that how can you, really create your reality that matches your dream, basically, right? So universe is mental, per Kabbalion, and that is what I would say about us being a spirit in the human body. And the whole thing is that your thought is one of the key vibration that initiates everything for you. Your feelings, what you do day to day. So therefore, if you actually are aware of your thought, so basically what I'm saying, I'm just giving you 3 steps here. Step number 1 is honor your thought, right? As soon as you think, you should know that whatever the thinking is, you have to honor it, which means you don't just say, you don't disregard it. There's a reason it's coming up, whatever it is. The second thing is that then come up with a creative way to process it. So let's say if your thought is that I'm feeling like really tight in my body, right? So honor it rather than saying, okay, I'm just going to do another task that's going to make it more tighter. So please don't do that. Instead, you say, oh,
double down.
Exactly. So
more is better.
Exactly. So process it. Process it means come up with a creative way that you're going to do something that makes you feel that you did not disregard it. So in my case, if I'm feeling tight, I'm going to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to drink a glass of water, right? And I take a glass of water and I drink it. So, drinking is actually implementing it. So this is the 3 processes: honor, process, and implement. The thing is, when you keep on doing it, you're reinforcing the behavior that if Maria is a human craft named Maria is owning herself and she is taking full command of her ship, which is her human craft, and she's doing exactly what she needs to do. And that is pretty much the ultimate message I would like to leave for everyone, because that's what me and Maria has shared here, is our way of doing what we think works for us, because hoping that the same would work for you. So please enjoy this.
Find someone to lean on.
Exactly.
Okay, because we do that.
Exactly. And find like-minded people whom you can actually even exchange ideas like me and Maria do, because that helps you feel kind of, loved, because that to me is love. When you actually understand each other, that's a very powerful act of love. And I think that is one of the biggest struggles we're running into the world right now, is people are feeling alone. So you know what? Find your support system, and find the way to honor yourself. And that will definitely get you on the path of a good overall being. So have a lovely day from both me and Maria, and take care. Bye.